This is the Impressions Exchange Podcast.
Impressions Exchange Podcast.
Where all topics impacting the graphic imaging and printing industry are addressed via in-depth news coverage, analysis, and timely interviews.
Welcome to this episode of the Impressions Exchange Podcast. I'm Ashley Roberts, your host for today's episode. Our guest today is Jim Foley, president of BookBaby, based in Pennsauken, New Jersey. We hopped over the bridge from Philadelphia to visit him at his 150,000 square foot shop, where he recently made some investments in new equipment. We chat about the interesting name of his company, how it went from producing records to producing books, the company's new installations, and how trends and customer demands impacted his decisions. I'm here with Jim Foley, president of BookBaby in Pennsauken, New Jersey. Hi, Jim.
Hi.
So thank you so much for inviting us into your facility. A lot of exciting stuff happening here. So we were just walking around and you showed us some of the new equipment that you have. You've recently made some investments. But before we get into that, I'd love if you could give us just a brief, overview of BookBaby and where you started, where you are now.
Cool. Well, you might notice we're in a recording studio at BookBaby, which might seem weird, but not weird considering how we got our start as disc makers in the music business. So back in the 1940s in Philadelphia, we started making, I'll call it the first complete self-publishing package, except it was for musicians, not authors. And what we did was we were the first place where you could go and get a record package made, including the printing, the packaging, the design, the labels, the record pressing, the whole thing wrapped up in small quantities for you, independent musician and small record labels. So we carried that model all the way through many decades in the music business, CDs, DVDs, you name it. And then we got involved with digital music through an acquisition of BookBaby, who was a close partner to disc makers. So it was a perfect marriage for us. And at the time, we had a great relationship with Apple Music. And when the iPad came out, they were talking to us about, can you make ebooks for aggregating books from indie authors? So we said, sure, we can do that. And we actually started doing it here in some of these rooms where we do DVD authoring. The people who did DVD authoring were the first people who made ebooks for the company here. As we were learning how the EPUB files functioned and the reading devices and all that. So that's how BookBaby got its start in publishing. And in our infinite wisdom, we named the company BookBaby because, CD baby, well, we'll just do the same thing, but just call it BookBaby.
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Yeah. Great decision at the time. Hindsight, terrible decision. We get made fun of for our silly name sometimes. People are like, yeah, my publisher's BookBaby. And not everybody. It's great for children's book publishers, but, if you're a public speaker, you might not love our names so much. So. Anyway. But we have a cool story that makes the name cool after you hear the story. So anyway, turns out a lot of musicians were also authors. And now we know that every writer has an acoustic guitar somewhere in their closet. So many of our disc makers customers came to us to do the book publishing too. And they knew we were this big printing company because we printed all of our packaging for the record jackets and the CDs here. And so they said, well, you do printing, just print my books. And we're like, well, we don't know how to do binding, hardcover binding or perfect binding. And so we did all the printing. We started out with a great partner, Edwards Brothers Malloy, did our book manufacturing until we learned how to do it and had enough volume to bring the binding equipment in. So we got into 2015 was our infancy here doing books. And we started like many do with, the smaller Horizon. I think we had a 270 binder for perfect binding. We had a bunch of HP Indigo presses. We had Komori offset presses. And then the demand grew. And, we're a tech company, so we have this really robust store for authors to sell books. And it's feature rich. And people are blowing up on TikTok and the social media outlets mostly, or from their own websites. So direct to reader commerce. Mm-hmm. And so we do the print on demand for that. And it's crazy because some mornings I'll come in and I'll see, oh my goodness, look how many books an author like Daniel Valencia sold last night. And we'll have all these orders for Daniel and we'll have to fulfill them. He's a great TikTok personality. You can look him up. Smart doctor. It's into fitness and healthy eating. And that's what his books are about. We print all those. And, so we need to have our demand fluctuates like crazy. And it's always fluctuating up, never down. So there's like a steady base of book demand that's been growing. And then we get these hits all the time. And they start selling like crazy. And we have to be able to meet demand. So it turns out that a lot of the books that are hits for us are books that the color printing is really important. They're hardcover, so people are really interested in the presentation of the book. And another quick thing to know about that is that these authors and their market's not price sensitive, so their fans, just like in the record business, will pay for a great looking record or a great looking book. And so we don't sell like just the like low cost trade paperbacks. We make them and we do sell those, but that's not what we're really focused on. We're focused on, I don't want to say the higher end of the market, but quality color printing, children's books, cookbooks, nonfiction books. We do a lot of textbooks, education market, who's selling in different ways, not traditional bookstores, online. And so, we'll get big orders for case-bound books, and we'll have to be able to print them quickly. Most of the books leave here in 3 to 5 days. So, we need the production power to be able to fluctuate. So.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to get into that production power, and we did, on the floor, you showed us some of those books, like you said, the doctor, influenced by TikTok and the demand that's there, which is something we've covered, the growth of book talk and that excitement there. So that growth, and then you said production demands. You've made some recent investments in new technology. So can you talk about that? What you've recently installed and why?
Sure. So the color quality is really important for us. It comes from our legacy of printing record jackets. People are quite sensitive about how that looks, and it has to be, it's a premium packaging product. So that it's just in our DNA. We have to print good color. So that's how we started doing that. We had a bunch of indigos, and eventually we were using the indigos to print the book blocks, but demand got so big that we needed something different than sheet fed. So we transitioned to roll fed printing, and we looked at the whole market. We looked at all the inkjet stuff at the time. This was like 2021, and we landed on Zycon, and we love their platform. They've been a great partner to us, and so we started out with 2 of those presses. Now we have 5, so the XX 30,000. We like them because the color is consistent across all the presses, so there's not a lot of variability between the output of all the different devices. And we become masters at operating them. And everything's G7 certified. We print to the highest packaging standard for color printing. The printing is the start of it. So we have to print fast at times, and we have to print a lot of stuff. So we have those presses. We run them 2 to 3 shifts. We flex hours if needed across all 5. And the way we have it set up now, it's pretty easy for us just to keep adding more presses as we need to. So, the last install is very quick, and we released the presses at record time to production, and they've been fantastic. So we feel good that we can keep doing that. And then the finishing, of course. So we need to take those rolls and turn them into hardcover books. So we invested in the Mechanica Technica roll to book line, the Serial Universe. Mm-hmm. So that's here. It's wonderful. So it takes the book, sews the book block, perfect binds it if it's soft cover, does the end sheet tipping if it's hardcover, and then it goes over to the new Mueller Diamant. I forget which model it is, MC60 maybe. Sorry, guys. But that's the new one we have here. So that's great. It's doing 30 books a minute for a hardcover casing in, which is really great. So we have like I said, most of the stuff goes out of here in 5 days. So, you figure a day and a half to print it, another day to get through binding, and then, casing it and packaging and all that. So we need some robust finishing equipment to handle all the printing. And it's really exciting. And to complement that casing in, we needed to make the cases, of course. So we have a whole work center that is Mitabook machines. So we have a Mitabook case making machine, and we have 3 Mitabook casing in machines that we use for the 1 book production, and like the little stuff like 5 books, sometimes 2 copies we'll sell in our bookstore. And those orders come in 24/7. The store never closes. So, we have really micro short run stuff to do. So that's what we do with that equipment. And then for just 1 book stuff, we also have a GP2 for some formats that we utilize there. We have some large format stuff that is difficult to run on the automation. So, and then so we invested in the Colbus case making machine, which is really great. We're getting 60, 65 cases a minute out of that machine. And so it's really good because we have to have all that stuff done very quickly. So the Indigos print the covers, lamination, Colbus, off to be married with the book block at the Mueller in just a few days. That's how we're set up at this point in time. So we're really excited. We like to do these investments. We added 2 more Zycons, the Colbus, the Mechanica Technica, the Mueller, all starting in November, so that we could have them all in production now, because we really get crazy in the springtime, and then it's just off to the races all the way through Christmas time, holiday shopping, all that.
Yeah.
And because we cover so many, I like to say we publish books in every BISAC code. So demand for all those different kind of genres fluctuates at different times throughout the year. So, we don't really have any downtime.
Right, which is good. It's a good thing. And we saw, right now you're printing some yearbooks. It's that time of year.
We are. It's funny. We always, not only are the writers at home and they have an acoustic guitar or vice versa, they also work in education. They're smart people, our customers. So they'll say, oh, you know what? My school does yearbooks and I love BookBaby and I love Disc Makers. I'm going to do my yearbook with you guys too. So we had a joke that we were going to start BookBaby and officially enter the yearbook market. We have not done that, and we're not going to do that, but we will take the yearbook work that we get now and print it.
Right.
Yeah.
Great. So one final question. I know you kind of touched on it, some of those trends, TikTok, things that are driving different customer demand, but what are some of the biggest trends that you're seeing that's kind of impacting the work that you're doing and the investments that you're making?
Mm-hmm. Well, the things I've learned about book selling in the last bunch of years through TikTok, and it's not just that, Instagram Reels and the others, Discord, Twitch, if you're a gaming kid, you might know that one. It's you could never predict which is going to hit and become a massive seller. I have no idea. And they're all wildly different in their own way. But there are some commonalities. They all have some kind of really great story to tell. If it's fiction, it's a really unique new thing that's, appealing to people. They might have a great personal story. We have one of my favorite authors is this guy, Raul Ramos, who was an LA gang member growing up, experienced all that kind of lifestyle, found himself, ended up in the United States Navy, and went on to become a Master Chief in the Navy. Wonderful person. Lots of insight, and he wrote a book. He didn't know anything about writing or being an author or selling books. And this guy sold more books than most people did last year from any traditional publishing house or anywhere else. And you can look him up. He's very big on Instagram and all this stuff, and he goes around, he does speaking gigs and sells his book about his life. It's really cool. And then we see health and fitness is huge. And then we see I don't know what to call it, new age mysticism, I guess,
okay.
if you will.
I know you mean, yeah.
We have some TikTok personalities who are real big in that, and they're experts in that, and they have big communities and big followings. Romance is always gigantic, and cookbooks, any kind of nonfiction authority book, so they always sell. And the thing about it is the people, they're just genuine people. They're authentic. They're not faking it. They really believe in their story or themselves or what they're doing, and they like to engage. They like talking about it, and they build an audience, and the audience, it's just like I always equate it to the music business. Your fans they want to hear from you, and they want to pay for your stuff. Mm-hmm. They appreciate good quality. And I think quality means not just the quality of the printing or the quality of the writing or the photography, whatever it may be. It's the quality of the person, and who they are. And that really resonates, Because if you're on TikTok and you're faking it, it's not going to work out,
Right.
You got to be authentic.
So does BookBaby have a TikTok? Are you reaching customers where they are? Or?
We do have a TikTok.
Okay.
I joke though that a lot of us at BookBaby, we have like 2 generations. We're in a generational shift right now. There's like my crowd, and then there's like a whole bunch of young up and comers here. It seems like we're in like a generational shift. So we're encouraging our younger teammates to take on the socials for us and do a better job. Because
that's great.
When I do it, or social media people, like we all have access to the accounts, and it'll be like, here's me taking a picture of the paper on the press again, or something like that. So we're trying,
Yeah, that's great. And then the younger generation can take hold of trends and kind of jump on those things because on TikTok, that's...
I will say, if you're into the music business, our CEO, Tony Van Veen for Discmakers, does a great job on the socials and the YouTube channel he has about its music business tips for musicians. Mm-hmm. And he's as expert can be in that, and he does a great job of sharing all his pro tips every week. So he's got a big audience on the socials, and he's not a spring chicken either, but he's killing it.
Yeah.
So we're around. I'll say we're evolving. How about that?
Okay, I love that. Yeah, well, from where you started to where you are now, a big evolution. So, Jim, thank you so much for inviting us in, showing us around, and telling us about your recent new equipment. It's exciting.
Yeah, very exciting. Glad you could come.
Thank you. If you're interested in seeing inside Jim's shop, catch the video we recorded with him on site. I want to thank Jim for joining me on today's show, and I want to thank all of you, our listeners. Catch us on the next episode of the Impressions Exchange podcast.